All right, SVG part 2. So we did the basic sketch based on the shape we sketched out. And again, yours should be your own sketch. It shouldn't be just like mine. And you had 2 examples to go over. You have the original code pen I started, which has the BRA triangle, circle, rectangle, squiggly or jagged line there. And then from the getting started guide, there was this other rectangle, circle, line, polyline sketch with examples of the code that makes each of them look the way they are. Next thing we're going to play with is just getting used to some of the other basic shapes that SVG has to play with. And it's not all of them, but it's most of them. So you'll select this basic shapes. I'm going to do it a little bit different. So clicking on that will open it up. And when it first opens, it will be Coach Parker's. And what you need to do is choose the fork button on the bottom to make it your own so that you can then edit it, save it, and share it with me after. And so you'll have a slightly different version of this image down here. So I'm going to do that in a new tab here. And in CodePen, let's blow this up. If you go to your work, as you make new CodePens, it will record them for you. So they'll be all, so there's my new one right there. And so you can see I've made a few others playing around some other time. So what I want to do is, again, I'm going to take Coach Parker's pen of basic shapes, and I'm going to select the fork option below. So right now it's Coach Parker's code pen. So you can edit this all you want. It's not going to save because it's not yours, it's mine. To make it yours, you got to choose fork down here. So I'm going to select the fork option. Now it belongs to Gary Parker, and it's got a different code at the end. All right. And so just so I don't get confused about it, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to change the title to Basic Shapes for Gary. And then I offer suggestion here, and I make some, let's see, I just want you to play with the shapes. What does it mean to play with it? It means to change some things, kind of like I was doing before. Not that one. You can go away. You can stay. You can stay. There we go. So here I can see there's the intro stuff that's down here. And then the SVG starts here. And I have a rectangle. And here I make a suggestion. For example, make the rectangle not square and change its stroke from black to whatever that is. Interesting. Let's try that first. So I'm going to go grab that with the hashtag, right? So we're replacing what's in the quotes. And then the rectangle is right here and right here. And so I'm just going to replace black with that. And what color is that? Oh, that is the color code in hexadecimal for yellow. Cool. What else could I do? Make it not square. All right, well, the square is the width and height being equal. So if I make, say, the width 40, then it's going to be a rectangle that's not square. Cool. I did that. It says fill transparent, so I could put some other color in there. So let's go over to the named colors page, which I got right here. And there's some other option. The color palettes page is cool too. I'll look at that later. Named colors, indigo, Indian red, hot pink. There we go. Let's try hot pink. So then we're going to replace transparent with hot pink just for fun. Sweet. All right, let's see. What else do we have to play with here? So I want you to play with at least 3 things. Mess around. How about, so notice that's not a circle. It's an oval. And technically in math, an oval is usually an ellipse. An ellipse has a center X and a center Y, just like a circle does, but then it has 2 different radiuses. It has a radius X, which is a horizontal radius, and it has a vertical radius, which is the radius Y. So I'm going to change the radius. Let's just swap those. What if I make that one 5 and this one 20? Okay, so I just made it stretch out the other way. And if you make them the same, then you turned an ellipse into a circle. So if I made that a 20, it is now a circle, like the other one. All right, so let's try an ellipse with a 10 there and a 20. Cool. All right. And instead of red, I remember seeing a color called tomato, which is an orange red. Okay, what else can we do? We have a line, which has x1, x2, y1, y2. We have a polyline, which has a bunch of points. That's kind of like the jagged line I made before. Skip that. Ooh, check out this one. Polygon should be that star there. To check that out, let's pick a different color, like, let's see, I saw indigo earlier. Cool. And then let's play with the stroke width on that one. So instead of 5, if I make the stroke width a 1, it'll be a very skinny drawn line. And if I made it a 10, it would be super fat compared to the other stuff. Whoa, that's weird. Okay, kind of cool. Notice that it doesn't get pointy at the top. Something to think about. How would we fix that? It's a little more complicated. Just going to leave that like that. Let's play around with this one. So this is a path element. So that's this. And it's using a Q and a T. And the Q and the T are what are called quadratic Bezier curves, and the T continues that. What that means, so let me blow this up and draw on it. That's kind of cool. Let's double the width and height. So let's make it, instead of 250 by 250, let's make it 500 by 500. And then I just want to steal that and draw on it a little bit. So let me do a screenshot. So again, this one's a little easier than the last one. All you're doing is tweaking points and fills and strokes and stroke widths. Let's see, I want to grab that much of it. And let's put it in my drawing pad over here. And I need a page. Go. That there. Blow that up a little bit. And then I want to grab its code here too to kind of explain what's going on. The explanation is not really necessary. We're not going to play with the shape much, but I think it's fascinating mathematically. Is this path element here? All right, that up a little bit. All right. Ooh, I messed that up. Let's try again. Did I miss my chance? There we go. Okay, so what this says is move to the point 20 to 30. So let's get a pen out to play with this. Draw with red. So the point 20 to 30 is probably that point right there. And then it says go over to 40 to 05. Okay, so if this is x equals 20, here x equals 40 is somewhere over here probably. And if 230 is down here, then 205 is a little higher. So I'm going to guess that maybe right here is the point 4205. And that is called a control point. And it controls how this curves away from that starting point. And then we have another point, 50 to 30. So let's see, where about would 50 be? I gotta look back at the view screen here, the viewport, view box, there we go, view box. It is 250 wide, 250 tall, but we're not going over that far. And then T is 90. Okay, so this point over here is going to, oops, is going to be the 9230, the last point, and then 5230. I think I have that point in the wrong spot. I bet that point's over here more. So that's probably the control there. And then 5230 is going to be down here somewhere. No. All right, I'm not reading that right. What am I missing? 9230, that seems right. Oh, 5230 is this point right here. Oh, and then there's a secret point that's not drawn because of the T instead of a Q, and that is going to be kind of in the opposite direction of that one there. So it's going to be heading down parallel to that one there in the same length. And if we move these control points, it will stretch out this curve in a slightly different way. So for example, this control point right there is at 205. And remember, we measured down is bigger for y. So this around here is y equals 230. Right around here is 205. And so up here, maybe I could have like a 180 would be somewhere up here. So if I change the 205 to the 180, that's going to stretch the control arm, which should stretch this curve out. Let's try it. More than you wanted to know, probably. All right, so I am on the path, and I'm going to change that 205 to a 180, which I think should stretch out this curve right here upward. So I'm going to change the y, not the x. And it redraws the whole page. Yeah, so you can see how it gets stretched out. And again, because of the T connector, it also stretched out that bottom part too. There are ways to make them stretch independently. It's a whole nother thing. But that's called a Bezier curve, and that's the most common SVG for drawing complicated shapes. So for example, this tiger right here is just a shitload of Bezier curves drawn with a special tool. All right, so that's done with this one. Again, all I want you to do with this one is select that, then select fork to make it your own, screw around with it, change it a little bit, save it, and then later you're going to share it with me. All right, I'll be back in a minute with the next one.